What's going on, everyone? So today I am playing some Han Blue. A lot of you have requested this after seeing it take some top spots in tournaments over the weekend, and well, I've had my eye on Han Blue since set 2 released. Although I was playing a little bit of a different list, and especially without kind of going in that Ray Red sort of direction for a while. But as we've gone deeper and deeper into set 2, well, this is kind of the prevailing list where you just play high value units and kind of outvalue your opponent throughout the game. Now, this is not the list that took down the tournament. This is just kind of my list I've been running. And so we're going to talk a little bit about here and run some games. Before we do, I have a TCG player link in the description down below. Be sure to use that if you want to pick up any of your cards. And the second thing is a big thank you to all my Patreons. You might see some names scrolling across the screen now. If you want to check it out down below, we do have a Discord, and we also are probably going to be running some viewer games here every week. So with all that said here, let's talk about Han Blue. So Han, the new leader, new Han, action, play a unit from your hand, it costs 1 less, and you have to deal 2 damage to it. So the first thing I thought with Han Solo was, oh, pair it with blue, right? You got some grit units in there, blue usually has high toughness units, and it just kind of made sense, right? Well, turns out he's just good in all forms. Han green, Han double red, Han blue, Han yellow. You can do whatever you want with this guy because playing a unit for 1 less is just broken. His flip side as a 5 resource to deploy 3/6 isn't insane, but realistically, all we're doing with this guy is leveraging the fact that we can play all of our units for 1 cheaper. We play units that have some really powerful effects in order for us to get the most value from it. So first off, let's talk about some of the units. You might notice that our curve starts at 3 with this version of the deck, and that is because all of our 3 drops are actually 2 resource plays because we could pay 1 less for them. So we got ourselves Yodas, Red 3s, Concord Dawn Interceptors, Worshir Tree Tenders, and Cassian Andor as our 3 drops. If you think about kind of what these are on turn 1, Yoda is a 2/2 restore 2, Red 3 is a 2/1 with raid 1, Concord Dawn Interceptors is a 1/2 with Sentinel, Worshir Tree Tender is a 4/2, and Cassian Andor is a 3/3 on turn 1. Now, there is some options in this deck if you wanted to run some 2 drops, such as things like Queel, Sabine, A-Wing. However, I have actually just omitted those entirely because I've found that the turn 1 play, if a lot of these units die, for example, the Concord Dawn Interceptors, it's 2 a unit combat. Yoda draws you a card again, so that's usually pretty good for you. The Red 3, well, it's usually a target that they have to take out, and oftentimes you'll have different options. So you don't necessarily even have to go to the Red 3 direction. But usually I just prefer getting down my 3 drops because it usually gives me more options on my turn 2 to play just a straight up 3 drop if I would like to do so. We also got 1 copy attack, but he's not really a 3 drop. He's at least a 4 drop because you're going to be smuggling him out, and it's more of a late game insurance plan. In our 4 drop slot, we got ourselves K2 and Kanan. K2 is pretty important in this deck to discard some cards from your opponent, not usually using it for the 3 damage. And then Kanan's even more important because we are running the Force themed package, and this is a little bit more of a defensive deck. So getting a 4/3 down that heals you is really nice on turn 2. As our 5 drops, we got ourselves Rey and Poe Dameron. You'll notice that we do want a lot of 5, 6, 7, 8s, 9s because we are going up the curve. And Rey and Poe are both excellent 5 drops, but realistically 4 resource plays in our deck because Poe Dameron just comes down as an immediate massive threat. 6/4 body, tons of relevant abilities. Rey, she comes down as a 4/5, similar to when Kanan would come down, but she also has this ability to heal up your other units and even herself, which is really, really strong. And in this deck, because we have the Worshir Tree Tender, we even have a target to give some experience tokens to should that come up, which it does every once in a while. In our 6 drop slot, we got Obi-Wan's, comes down as a 4/4, but, well, has Sentinel and pushes those experience tokens around, which is extremely useful. On 6, this is where things starts to get really crazy. We got Luke Skywalker, comes down, kills something, has Restore 3, is a 6/5, really strong. Redemption on 8s, and so is Chewbacca. Redemption comes down, heals you a ton. Chewbacca comes down, ends up being a 6/8 for 7 resources that kills something. Basically, we have 5 copies of Luke Skywalker in this deck with Chewbacca because Chewbacca costs 7 resources and Luke costs 6, so even cheaper Luke. And then we have 2 copies of Crate Dragon to kind of finish out the game in some of those longer games. To kind of round out the deck, we are running a few different events. We got ourselves 3 copies of Force Throw. We actually have quite a few Force units. We have Kanan, we have Yoda, we have Rey, we have Obi-Wan, we have Luke, all of which are Force units, and we have 3 copies of each of those. We can even use Force Throw as early as turn 2 to actually get some value out of it, because we can go turn 1 Yoda, which is actually pretty powerful if you have the initiative. The other things that we're running are Takedown and Rivals Fall as ways to kind of get rid of problem permanents. We have 3 copies of Pillage, nice card against certain decks to really limit their options, especially against like Han Yellow or decks that are trying to ramp really hard. And then the last event that we're playing, which is really a card that I didn't find very playable except for in Han Solo specifically, and that is Karabast. This is an event that costs 2, but allows a friendly unit to deal damage to an enemy unit equal to the amount of damage on the friendly unit plus 1. Now, if you look, this is essentially 2 resources, deal 3 damage, right? Because Han Solo will deal 2 damage to something and you get plus 1. So 2 resource, deal 3, pretty strong and worth running, especially for the early game spots where it actually is amazing. Now, we're going to be running around and playing with this deck a lot. It is very, very strong, and I'm excited to showcase it. So let's dive into some games. Into our first match, we're against a Boba Yellow. So pretty strong, tempo-oriented. We don't want to rely too much on a single unit. This seems like a reasonable hand, but it limits our options. I think we could do a little bit better. And this is a significantly better hand. I'm going to go ahead and resource this Crate Dragon and Redemption to give us the most options. But depending on what they play on turn 1, we can play a 3-3. We could play a 2-2 with Restore 2, or we can play a 4-2. And with this setup, I'm going to go ahead and play a Cassian, since Cassian doesn't immediately die to Crafty Smuggler, and then we can get down one of our powerful 3 drops. And look at that, we've drawn ourselves into Karabast and K2, which are both excellent cards to draw into. And we can even play one of our 4 drops here. So we're going to go ahead and resource this Tree Tender, as he's kind of outlived his usefulness already. Let's see what our opponent does here. If they decide to go ahead and kill the Cassian, I'm not too fussed about that. Here, let's just go ahead and get down a... Do I want to get down a Yoda, or do I want to get down a K2? I think in this spot, I'm actually going to want to get down a K2. And the reason I'm doing this before is there's a chance they play something that actually just dies to Cassian. If you think about what they could play, there is a few different cards that do just straight up die to Cassian. They played a Toro Calican, which is totally fine. I'm going to hit their Crafty Smuggler with the Cassian. And the reason I decided to do that was because I have the Karabast alongside. I am going to be the definite defensive player in this matchup. So the first thing I'm going to want to do on this turn is go ahead and, they're going to make me, or they're going to go ahead and hit K2, which is totally fine. We're going to go ahead and probably just, do I want to attack them? I think I am interested in attacking them just to see what they decide to do here. And I think I'm just going to get down a Kanan. And then I'm going to go ahead and take initiative here. They might be able to attack me multiple times by playing something and then readying up Toro, right? Which would be okay, because we are actually in a pretty good spot right now. Remember, we have Obi-Wan coming down next turn, which is the Boba Fett flip turn. And the reason why I decided to get down Kanan instead of playing Karabast, which kills Toro right now, is because we have a Force unit to put those experience tokens on, so that allows us to draw an additional card. And here, if they want to ambush something with 4-LOM, it actually just dies because of the extra damage from Toro. And that's actually a really good situation for us. So here, let's see what our opponent decides to do. They might actually kill Cassian. They will. I don't know if that's necessarily even a great play from them, because they should have probably just let 4-LOM ambush it, huh? Here is a Kanan alongside a Red 3. So here, I think I'm going to resource this Red 3 and keep the Kanan, because what I want to do is start off by going ahead and killing their 4-LOM. And looks like we discarded a No Good To Me Dead, so that's going to be nice. And this allows us to allows me to go in and play a Karabast alongside a Kanan, or just a straight up Obi-Wan. We could also deploy Han Solo this turn, which would be pretty nice. Looks like they are going to attack our base. That seems fine to me. I'm going to go ahead and deploy Han Solo. Usually double yellow Boba doesn't have that many options to kill a leader that has been deployed. And the reason why I'm doing that is because, well, we now get to play an Obi-Wan here. And that's going to be a pretty nice spot for us. If they have like a Boba Fett's armor, that could be a little bit complicated. If they have a waylay, that could be a little bit complicated, right? Because they could waylay the Obi-Wan. But this allows me a few different options, right? And definitely more options than our opponent would have otherwise. Especially since we have Rivals Fall, so we could actually just kill their Boba Fett leader next turn. So if their turn consists of something like Waylay, then I'm okay with that because we have an answer to their leader the following turn. If their answer is just to straight up hit Obi-Wan, we can always go ahead and put the experience tokens on Kanan or Han. Doesn't really matter. Looks like they have a Zuckuss that they're going to play. And that's okay because we're just going to kill their Toro here. So let's go ahead and kill Toro. Get rid of that unit. Let's see if they decide to kill my Obi-Wan here. If they do, I want to put the experience tokens on Kanan in order for me to get enough power to one-shot the Zuckuss and, of course, draw a card. But they're kind of in a bad spot here. Also, part of the reason why I took out 4-LUM is because of the Zuckuss. Whenever you see 4-LUM on the battlefield, you really want to make sure that you can get rid of it before they have time to go ahead and Zuckuss you, as that is one of the really, really bad ways that you could lose the game. Looks like they are going to try to kill Obi-Wan with Zuckuss, or maybe they're just going to hit our base. Tech is a okay draw. We can go ahead and resource that and smuggle it out a little bit later. I can go something along the lines of Kanan / K2 plus Karabast, or just play a Rivals Fall. Let's see what our opponent decides to do here. They're going to kill Han Solo. Okay. In that case, I think I'm just going to Rivals Fall Boba Fett. Just defeat it. Get it out of here. So now this prevents them from readying additional resources, period. What I could have done is play Karabast and try to kill the Boba Fett that way. But if they have some sort of cunning, then that could be pretty bad for us. Okay, let's go ahead and claim initiative here. And that's a Rashir Tree Tender. Not exactly that exciting. But we can go ahead and play out a Karabast, killing off the Zuckuss. Or I could just replay the Kanan, just in case they decide to kill off Obi-Wan. We now have another unit to put those experience tokens on. This is where the game gets a little bit complicated because they have a lot of bounce effects. So we need to be kind of wary that we don't get absolutely overrun here. There you go. There's a Waylay, just as I had said. We're going to go ahead and play a K2 now. And they can go ahead and kill K2. But remember, we are in a spot where we don't mind if they are going to be playing the more controlling, longer game. We just need to make sure that we can get rid of their units. Here it looks like they have a mercenary gunship and a Greedo. So very, very strong situation for our opponent to be in. And I'm going to start off by going ahead and playing a Karabast and hitting the Zuckuss. Wait. Choose a target for Karabast. Choose a card. Not sure what that was. Oh, I was choosing a target. Oh, I see. I thought was, for some reason I was like, oh, in paper it would have just been like hit, but I should have chose the K2. It doesn't matter. It would have been dead anyways, but Karabasting should have chosen the K2 to hit the Zuckuss. We have a Force Throw here, as well as an Obi-Wan potential follow-up. So here, if they decide to buff the mercenary gunship, it's a little bit awkward because I should be able to steal it. Okay, they're going to go ahead and play out or pump up a Cantina Bouncer. And now we just get to go ahead and play out our Obi-Wan to prevent that damage because their Greedo cannot kill my Obi-Wan. So let's go ahead and get the experience tokens over on Kanan. We're going to force throw our opponent. They discard a new adventure. So we're going to use that to kill the mercenary gunship so we take as little damage as possible. And we're going to claim initiative. And that is a Chewbacca, which looks pretty good. There is another Kanan here in the wait. We're going to go ahead and use this time to go ahead and kill their Cantina Bouncer. Heal looks like 1, which is a little bit unfortunate. And then we can choose kind of our path. We can play a Chewbacca to kill something. We can go ahead and do all sorts of things. We will make them discard. So they discarded a third Toro Calican from the top of their deck. They have a mercenary gunship. That's fine. We're going to play a Chewbacca here and kill their mercenary gunship. And we will pass. Technically, I could have just played the Chewbacca off of the Han to get it a 6/8 body, which probably would have been a little bit better, even though I didn't need to. But something to consider. Here, I guess I could resource this Kanan, since, well, if they're dealing with Kanan, then that's pretty good for us. Okay, they're ambushing. That's fine. We're just going to drop a Crate Dragon. No need to go ahead and pay or make it cost 1 cheaper there because, well, Crate Dragon doesn't get any advantages for having damage on it. Drew ourselves into Rey and Concord down Interceptors, and this game is pretty much a wrap. There isn't really much our opponent can do, and they concede. Okay, so pretty solid one against the double yellow Boba deck, which is a very strong deck. Looks like they had the new adventure. They had a nice curve. They did have the waylay, you know, but they even have the Forlom Zuckuss, but we dealt with all of it, and we were able to kind of slowly just chip away, get some healing going. And that force throw drawn at that specific time was excellent. It allowed us to really not take too much damage and get rid of that mercenary gunship without playing the Chewbacca, which was amazing. Awesome. On to game number 2. Into our next game, and this one's a pretty close hand. If we had 1 3-drop instead of one of these 5 drops or 9 drops or 7 drops, this would be an immediate keep, but I'm going to go ahead and mulligan this. And it looks like we drew ourselves into, well, pretty reasonable couple of options. We got ourselves Kanans, K2s, Crate Dragons, Red 3s, and Lukes. Now, the question is, which card do I want to play on turn 1? And I believe that card is going to be Yoda. And so I'm actually going to go to resource this Red 3. Probably the Crate Dragon, since Luke's actually just a 6-drop, which is pretty interesting. They're going to claim initiative, and we're just going to play out a Yoda and then pass. And the reason why we play out Yoda in this matchup is they're going to be more of the tempo-oriented matchup by playing units, getting upgrades on them, and tapping down our stuff. So there's a good chance that we won't even be able to attack with something. So playing out like a Red 3 doesn't really make too much sense. But also at the same token, if Yoda dies, then it draws us a card. So that's a pretty nice situation to be in. Let's go ahead and just immediately attack in with Yoda. I could force throw, but most likely I'm just going to go ahead and play out a Kanan. And we're going to pass. So pretty nice couple of plays here with the Kanan and Yoda. A couple of force units on the battlefield, which I quite like. Now, they can start upgrading this Warshear Tree Tender to start tapping down some stuff, which could get a little bit complicated for sure. But we'll see. Looks like they play a Foundling, and they're going to go ahead and tap down the Kanan. So let's go ahead and attack in for 2 here. See if they pump up their Warshear Tree Tender even further. They're going to give it a shield token, huh? Nice. Okay. In that case, I think I will want my opponent to discard a card here. And we can deal some damage to the Warshear Tree Tender. Wow, they have a 0-costed card. That's pretty funny. All right, they're going to kill the Yoda. We're going to claim initiative. I'm not too worried about what's going on here, mainly because the Rivals Fall in my hand. We can kind of deal with this Warshear Tree Tender at any point. The fact that they did not have a card that we could hit the Warshear Tree Tender with was a little unfortunate, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and just hit their base for 4. Discard looks like a Grief Karga. And then we can follow up by playing the Rey here. See what they decide to do. Okay, let's go ahead and just play Rey out. We could also ready up Han, but that's not even necessarily something that's interesting to me. They attacked our base, which means if they don't do anything here, we could always just take initiative and then go ahead and potentially Luke or potentially Rivals Fall. Either one of them is pretty good here. And I think what I'm going to do to start us off is attack their base with Ray and actually heal up Kanan so that it doesn't die to the enemy Kanan. Looks like they have a Mandalorian here, which is totally fine. I am going to go ahead and what do I want to do here? So I'm going to attack, Ready Han, attack, and then Rivals Fall. Yeah, let's Rivals Fall the Rorschach Tree Tender. Just get it out of there. We can follow up by Chewbacca next turn, or we can Luke, both of which would be pretty solid. Let's go ahead and deploy Han here. And now they have 0 resources, so we can just attack both units into their Mandalorian and go ahead and kill off the Mandalorian. Let's kill Kanan. We discarded another Mandalorian. Let's go ahead and attack, hit the Mandalorian. They're going to claim initiative. We're going to pass. Drew ourselves into, well, a couple good ones. We got Pillage and Obi-Wan. We have definitely a ton of options available to us. I'm actually going to resource this Poe. Pillage looks pretty good here, honestly. Depending on what they do, we can Luke Skywalker away something. Depending on how many resources they spend, also, we could pillage. If we pillage, then we have no more resources to do anything else, which is a little bit poor. But that seems okay to me. Let's just go ahead and attack in to their Kanan and heal up the Han. Okay, let's go ahead and just attack into their Kanan. I'm okay with kind of trading off units here because we are by far the more powerful deck. Looks like they have a Tarful, huh? Let's go ahead and just play out. What do I want to play out here? I think I want to play out the Obi-Wan. And we drew ourselves into a Rivals Fall and Cassian, both of which are pretty solid. But now what they could do is like attack my Obi-Wan with Tarful to give it 4 damage, which allows that to deal 4 damage to Rey. Oh, they're going to Mandalorian armor here to start us off. Okay. Then that gives us a very easy Rivals Fall target. I was thinking that we might have been able to Luke or something, but yeah, this works out pretty nicely. We're just going to Rivals Fall the Mandalorian. Drew into Rivals Fall. Excellent card. Excellent card. And now they can attack and kill Rey if they would like. And that gives us enough HP so that Chewbacca actually kills off their Tarful. Oh, wow. They're going to... Oh, we drew into Carabast. Well, that was an amazing draw. Whew. Excellent. Wow. Carabast. Ooh, and now we can just kill their Grogu, make sure they have no units to put upgrades on. And we get to heal up Rey. And now we are kind of running away with the game. We have multiple removal in our hand. We have a way to heal potentially 8. We have the Pillage, which can get rid of multiple cards from our opponent. So if they try to set up something, we can kind of have a way to deal with that. Looks like they went ahead and had a Razor Crest here, which is pretty good for them. But I think we just go ahead and play a Chewbacca and kill the Razor Crest. They returned... What did they return? They had 2 Mandalorian armors and a Foundling. So they returned a Mandalorian armor. We can go ahead and kill the Mandalorian warrior. Just heal up a little bit. We have so much power in our hand. There's not really anything for us to do besides just continuously kill all of their units when they come down. Krayt Dragon also makes that a little bit easier because anything they play also allows us to hit them or hit their units, which is pretty nice. But overall, I mean, we can just sit back behind our 6'9" and our 6'10" and just chill. Kill everything. Kanan. Cool. Dead. And then if they play something, they have a public enemy. Okay. Seems reasonable to me. We're going to go ahead and play a Krayt Dragon now. And this game seems pretty wrapped up. We now get to attack, heal up Ray, and we just pass. Draw ourselves basically another copy of every single unique unit in the entire game. We can resource this Concord Dawn Interceptors. I haven't needed to pillage because we could just apply pressure to the board. They're playing a Wookiee Warrior. We'll just hit them for 4. I will then hit their base for 10. And now, basically, if they play anything, we can just finish them off. It looks like they kept the Mandalorian armor in hand, and that makes things pretty easy because I can just finish them off. So, pretty straightforward game. They are more of a tempo deck. The doubles Rivals Fall were excellent in this game. Rivals Fall definitely helped us win by a large margin. See with that timely Carabas, that was excellent. Overall, pretty solid from us, and on to the next one. Into our next matchup, we got ourselves a match against Palp Yellow. Now, Palp Yellow does tend to have a decent amount of ramp, but also some things that you can interact with you a little bit early. Usually, something like Rivals Fall is not amazing. I would like to keep a lot of my earlier plays, and I think I will just resource this Rivals Fall. I think I'd rather just have more value in my units. One thing that we do have to keep in mind is them stealing one of these units is pretty bad for us, but we're going to go ahead and play out a Rorschach Tree Tender on turn 1. Just have a nice little 4-2. This is a very aggressive start for sure. If they have, well, looks like they have a V-Wing, which is fine. V-Wing isn't that scary for us. Force Throw looks pretty good. I think I'm going to resource this Chewbacca. We can always smuggle it out later since, well, we have a bunch of different options here. In the middling stages of the game with Obi-Wan and Luke, doesn't really feel like it's necessary to go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and play a Kanan. They're sneak attacking out a Super Laser Technician, which is fine. They're going to be able to kill my Rorschach Tree Tender. Most likely. I'd be very surprised if they decide not to. Okay, they're going to kill Kanan. Sure. Yeah, get to draw a card, kill Kanan. Seems okay to me. Still a little bit surprised they decided to go with that plan, but yeah, works. Let's go ahead and attack in with the Rorschach Tree Tender. A little bit of unlucky draws here. Would have really loved to have seen any 4-drop, any 5-drop in our deck, and yet we did not really draw any of those, so that's a little bit unfortunate. Drew into our another Luke Skywalker and another Force Throw, both of which we really don't want to be seeing. Really want to be seeing, you know, some cheaper stuff or just Crate Dragons at this point so that we can make multiple plays. Looks like our opponent has Overwhelming Barrage. They're going to kill off my Rorschach Tree Tender. Seems reasonable. Let's go ahead and attack in for 1 with Concord Dawn Interceptors. Also, this guy should not be able to heal 1 when he plays Overwhelming Barrage, so that's a little bit unfortunate. Let's play Han Solo. They can attack. We're going to go ahead and attack in with Han. Let's see if our opponent decides to defeat Yularen to hit Han Solo. Reason I decided not to play Obi-Wan here yet is because there's not usually a 1-resource way to kill my Han at this point, so we should still be able to get down Obi-Wan at the end of this turn. And it looks like that is going to be the case. So we're going to go ahead and play Obi-Wan, and we're going to pass. Yularen is dead because they hit my Han Solo. Red 3 Yoda, I think I can go ahead and resource probably the Red 3, since we can deploy Luke this turn. They have a Super Laser Technician. Seems pretty good to me. Let's go ahead and attack with Obi-Wan. They can flip Palpatine if they would like to. Attack for 3. They're going to flip Palpatine almost assuredly. And then I'm going to attack for 1. And then we get to go ahead and play a Yoda. And then we can Force Throw plus Force Throw. Dang, they have an Escort Skiff. That was excellent for them. Really, really quite excellent. Let's just play Attack out. Wow, they had the exact answer that they needed. Because Yoda has 4 toughness. Wow, pretty nice from them. We got to draw ourselves a Poe Dameron, and, well, we're going to get rid of one of these force throws at this point. Looks like our opponent has another Overwhelming Barrage. Okay, that's going to wipe the board here. So pretty nice from them for sure. Yep, pretty good, pretty good. We can go ahead and probably just play a... Do I want to play a Luke here? Yeah, I think I'll play a Luke. And kill their escort skiff. Now, if they want to kill my Luke with Emperor Palpatine, that's okay with me. If they do not, then that's also okay with me. We're going to claim initiative here. And now we can start smuggling out Chewbacca's, not this turn, but the next turn. Got ourselves a redemption here, which looks pretty nice. Think we're going to go ahead and just play out the redemption. And I will heal a little bit. I will heal 3. Because usually the things that you're going to see from Palpatine aren't going to be able to deal with redemption. And 3 HP allows Carabas... Oh, well, they have a Devastator. Well, Devastator deals with redemption. So they kind of had everything so far to deal with everything that we've got going on. Didn't really have that many options. We could have gotten rid of the force throws early on, but they kind of had everything, which was awesome. Like that is kind of what yellow Palpatine's trying to do. And one thing that our deck can't avoid is dealing damage to stuff usually, because that's kind of what we do. And the only way we can get around that is by playing towards the curve, but our deck's not really meant to do that. So our opponent really just had a great hand against us. They had the double Overwhelming Barrage. They had the sneak attack Super Laser Technician on turn 2, which killed our Worshir Tree Tent or our Kanan alongside the V-Wing. And they also had another Super Laser Technician to defeat so they could ramp into Palpatine. So they had double ramp. That also dealt damage, which is kind of where you want to be with Palpatine. So awesome from our opponent. On to the next one. Into our next matchup against Yellow Kylo. Now, this is a pretty weak hand against Yellow Kylo. What I'm really looking for is like a turn 1 Yoda, if I can get it. And this hand does have a turn 1 Yoda. And I could probably resource this Chewbacca and probably this Redemption. Usually, if the game's going to Redemption, you've probably won. Not necessarily, but you've probably won. Turn 1 Yoda is excellent because it usually will trade with most of Kylo Yellow's turn 1 plays while also drawing cards and also restoring. We also have a turn 2 Kanan, which is also quite good as it does heal up. And because we have the initiative on making this play, if we didn't have the initiative, then there's other things I could have done. Looks like they have a Crafty Smuggler, which is one of the few things that this does not trade with. So that's something to keep in mind. But, well, we're just going to go ahead and immediately attack into their base. They'll probably hit Yoda, I imagine, since they're a little bit more aggressive. They might discard a card, but if they do that and they're trying to kill Yoda, it's kind of worthless. But at least we're going to get our card back, which is quite nice. Crafty Smuggler is pretty reasonable. It's nice in these aggro decks because it can kind of guarantee some damage coming out from that unit, which is pretty nice. Okay, they're going to hit the... what's it called? The Yoda. Draw us a K2. And I'm actually going to play the K2 here because I'd rather keep my Kanan alive than the K2, since K2 is mainly just going to allow them to discard a card from their hand. Okay, so they're not going to do anything fancy with their discarding and silencer, which seems reasonable to me. They're going to deal 1 with Reckless Gunslinger. Okay, so we've drawn ourselves a Force Throw and a secondary Kanan, which I do actually quite like. What I'm going to do is go ahead and kill off the Crafty Smuggler and make them discard. Might seem a little bit awkward to make them discard since they're playing Kylo, but just giving them fewer options in hand is quite nice. They discarded a secondary Crafty Smuggler. Now, they don't have a unit to actually kill Kanan. So what I'm going to do is play Kanan. And then we're going to try to force throw them, since most of their units are going to be able to kill whatever they've got. Let's go ahead and force throw my opponent. Get the last card out of their hand. Looks like they had a surprise strike, so we can go ahead and kill the TIE Silencer with that, which is really nice. And now Kylo is just going to die to my Kanan, which is really, really awesome as well. Unless something else ends up happening, this is just a really, really good spot for us to be in. Okay, here I'm actually going to try to keep Kanan alive because I want to get down an Obi-Wan this turn. So I'm actually going to kill their Reckless Gunslinger. and it also still trades with any of their units, which is really nice. Since we haven't taken too much damage, there's not really a reason to immediately get Kylo off the board. The only way this goes really poorly is if they go like Fallen Lightsaber into more things afterwards. Because if they go Fallen Lightsaber here, I just play an Obi-Wan, and then their Fallen Lightsaber will be able to kill Obi-Wan and Kanan. So that is a little bit unfortunate, but should be okay. Let's go ahead and play an Obi-Wan. Again, the only thing that really goes poorly here is a Fallen Lightsaber. But okay, Jetpack isn't really that big of a deal. They can go ahead and kill Obi-Wan, and we're going to go ahead and get 2 experience on our Kanan, and that is totally fine for us. They're going to smuggle that one out as well. Going to play a red 3. And then here, I think I will just be killing off the... Well, actually, I could just play out... I could have deployed Han last turn, but I kind of just wanted to take initiative so that I could go ahead and play an Obi-Wan immediately this turn. And the second Obi-Wan, the reason why I'm going to go ahead and play it out first is because if they end up killing Obi-Wan with something, then I can go give 2 experience to Kanan yet again and actually... Ooh, interesting. It's going to deploy out our Han Solo. So, give 2 experience to Kanan. Go ahead and kill Greedo. Keep Kanan alive. But as I was saying, I can go ahead and give 2 experience to my Kanan to allow... for some pretty powerful plays here, which allow me to actually just straight up kill off their Greedo and allow him to live, which is really awesome. And you can just start to see, because we've drawn so many cards with Obi-Wan, with Yoda, we kind of just have a million cards in hand, and we're never going to get through them all, like ever going to get through them all. But, you know, something to keep in mind. They're going to kill Kanan, which is like kind of whatever for them. I'm going to pass here. If they claim initiative, then I'm fine with that. Could have played a force throw, but not really necessary. Okay, let's go ahead and actually force throw my opponent. Just get rid of the last card in hand. It's a Lurking TIE Phantom. That was kind of awesome to get rid of. Granted, Luke Skywalker can kill Lurking TIE Phantom, but, well... Now we play a Luke, kill their Toro, and I mean, this game is completely over. Yep, they're going to concede. So, pretty straightforward game, nothing too complicated. They even had a great card against our turn 1 play, but I mean, this Kylo Yellow deck realistically needs to get in really early, and they just kind of had a weaker start. Like, turn 1 Crafty into turn 2 Silencer is pretty mediocre. And I think did they smuggle out the Reckless Gunslinger? Couldn't remember. I think they just played this, but anyways, Fallen Lightsaber did come in, but just a turn too late for them. And even if it did, I still think we could have won the game. Just would have been a little bit more difficult. Anyways, on to the next one. Into our next matchup, and it's against a Palpatine double green. Now, I actually kind of like this hand, mainly because the Worshir Tree Tender into K2 is a pretty strong start, and Pillage tends to be pretty good against ramp decks. Depending on what they do, of course, but if they focus super hard on ramping, then they may not have enough cards in hand to choose later on to keep some of their big stuff if that ends up being a consideration. And then also K2 can get rid of another card in hand so that they can be really, really kind of low on resources, which would be pretty powerful for us. See what they decided to start off with. They claimed initiative on turn 1, which is not a very strong start. And we drew ourselves a Cassian, a Force Throw, and a K2. Gonna go ahead and resource this Cassian since I don't really want to be playing him this turn. And then the next turn, I'm gonna play Pillage, almost assuredly. So makes sense to make it a 5-drop here. They played a Super Laser Technician. Okay, let's go ahead and play a K2. And then they're going to claim initiative since they have 0 resources. And we're going to go ahead and attack their base for 4. And we're going to pass. Crate Dragon's an excellent draw. So is Yoda. So here I have a couple of options. I could resource this Yoda and hope to get down to Luke Skywalker later on in combo with Force Throw. I can resource this Force Throw, or I can just resource Luke and go Yoda plus Force Throw in one of these turns. Either this turn or potentially just playing a Pillage this turn. Weird. They're going to go ahead and kill my Worshir Tree Tender. I'm surprised that they decided to kill that instead of K2. Maybe they're going to try to steal it. Have no idea. If they go with a unit here, we can always Yoda Force Throw, which could be interesting. Or we could just go ahead and play a Pillage. Enterprising Lackeys, huh? Okay, let's just go ahead and play Yoda and play Force Throw. Because this is going to prevent their Enterprising Lackeys from just straight up killing one of our units for free. We're going to Force Throw our opponent. They have a Relentless. Okay, so awesome. Best case scenario, we ended up going ahead and getting rid of a massive unit, and, well, we got to kill their unit, which is great. Red 3, Krayt Dragon, Obi-Wan, all solid stuff. I think I'm going to resource this Red 3, though. We could potentially get down an Obi-Wan here, but it might just be worth it to play a Pillage. Really depends on kind of what's happening over there. We do have to watch out for the Emperor Palpatine flip, which is important. So if they start ramping pretty hard here, then I will be slightly concerned. Let's go and attack with K2, make them discard. Now, I could have played Pillage beforehand, but this makes it so that maybe they discard one of their less important cards and then rely on the 2 cards in hand. So them discarding Resupply when they're on 3 resources and can flip Palpatine next turn is extremely surprising to me. So they better have like a Reinforcement Walker in this spot or something else. The fact, wow, they discarded Resupply over Devastator. I don't know about that one. I would have definitely discarded that that Black Sun Starfighter and just resupplied. Okay, drew ourselves into a couple of powerful cards. I think I can go and safely resource this Kanan. They resourced 1, which means they better... Wow, they drew a Darth Vader right off the top. What an insane draw from our opponent. That was probably one of their best... Now, that was just their best card that they could have gotten in their entire deck. Like, that is absurd. So, really good from our opponent here to pick up that Darth Vader, but not so great for us. We're going to go ahead and play a Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then we're going to pass. Drew ourselves another Pillage, which doesn't look to be all that great in this spot, so I'm probably going to resource it. Wow, Darth Vader right off the top is absurd. Sometimes, Pillage, that's one of the issues with Pillage is, you can't, as they say with Magic, thought sees the top of your opponent's deck. Darth Vader right off the top, just ripping it straight off. Now here, it's going to be a little bit tricky for them to deal damage to something and then like try to steal it. So I don't know if that's really a viable option for them. Overwhelming Barrage. Oof. Okay, so now they get to kill off Han Solo. What a draw for my opponent. Again, that is pretty crazy. Wow, that is just crazy. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the Emperor's Royal Guard. I'm doing it this way because I'm actually not really interested in them stealing my Krayt Dragon. Like, I really don't want them to steal Krayt Dragon. That's kind of my one way out of this. So, and I need to play a Krayt Dragon next turn. Wow, Darth Vader and Overwhelming Barrage. What a sequence of draws. So they're going to kill Poe Dameron, which is going to kill their Darth Vader. And so now they have to rip something else in order for them to really win here. They can also defeat the Obi-Wan to give Darth Vader 2 experience tokens, which isn't that bad of a play either. Okay, they're not going to. So we drew ourselves a Takedown Array. Got a K2 going to go in the resource pile here. We're going to go ahead and play out a Krayt Dragon. Let's hope they don't have another Darth Vader. An attack into Krayt Dragon seems reasonable to me. Maybe give the experience over to Palpatine to draw an additional card. That's what I would do. We're going to claim initiative, and we're going to see what my opponent's got. Yep, gonna go ahead and kill the Krayt Dragon. And hopefully don't have a huge banger here like a Darth Vader or something. But that's the danger of playing against double green Palp, is you could have some crazy situations where they've ramped and then they just draw the best card off the top of their deck. You do have to be really, really worried about that. Whoops, I meant to smuggle, or I meant to resource this Chewbacca so that I could smuggle it out this turn. Because what I'm going to do is smuggle out this Chewbacca and kill the Emperor Palpatine. Not going to play the Krayt Dragon because I would love the Krayt Dragon to survive. And this actually is a pretty good threat on the board, this Chewbacca. And because I didn't want to use the 2 damage on Chewbacca, since right now the Chewbacca kills everything and it's going to get stronger if they attack it, then I'm pretty happy with what's going on. We're going to claim initiative here. And they have a Relentless, which is a very, very strong play here. Attack for 5. We got ourselves a Concord Dawn Interceptors, which could be actually kind of interesting. Prevent them from actually winning the game. We're going to just drop a Krayt Dragon here. And, I mean, this is going to cause some problems from our opponent because they don't have lethal on board here. And even though they played a Relentless, like, the events are not really how I'm going to win this game. If they have, like, a Devastator here, they don't even win? Because they can kill the Krayt Dragon, but we hit them for 10 with the damage, and then we deal another 4 to them with Chewbacca. They have a Palpatine's Return. Wow, Palpatine's Return does it, though. What an insane card, huh? Palpatine's Return is going to do it. So we can deal 6 damage to their base, and then they can kill off the Krayt Dragon. Wow, Palpatine's Return. Wait, why am I dealing 10 damage to something? Oh, is it play? Oh, it's play. Never mind. We just kill him. I for some reason I thought Palpatine's Return was not play, but it is play. So never mind. Okay, Palpatine's Return doesn't do it. For some reason I thought that the Palpatine's Return did not say play, so that we didn't get the extra damage trigger from Devastator. I thought they were gonna be able to revive Devastator, kill my Krayt Dragon, and then we were gonna have enough damage on their base to actually kill them. As I said, one of the ways they can kill Krayt Dragon is like a Devastator, and there's not really many ways for double green Palpatine to kill Krayt Dragon, besides flipping Palpatine and playing a Devastator. But you saw there, if I were to like trade off my Obi-Wan earlier on, then I wouldn't have been able to have as much success because I wouldn't have been able to flip into a Krayt, or play a Krayt Dragon, because they could have just flipped Palpatine and then stolen it, which is really just not possible for us to beat realistically, especially with a board state like that. So had some pretty good draws there with our Krayt Dragons, and then our opponent also flipped into that Darth Vader. Pillage ended up working out pretty nicely, even though they got lucky and drew a Darth Vader. But overall, pretty solid game, and a really close one, actually. If we hadn't gotten down that Krayt Dragon in the last turn, or this turn, and we hadn't done the Chewbacca the turn prior, game would have been completely over, right? Like, this was the final turn of the game for us. If they had gone to the next turn, we would have completely died. So, pretty nice one. On to the next. Got ourselves a matchup against Luke Yellow. Not a deck I would be kind of expecting to see. This hand's pretty bad. We got a lot of events and not a very reliable early start. This hand is a lot better. Now, Luke has a lot of options they can play on turn 1, but they're not playing greens. They don't likely have like Alliance Dispatcher and stuff. Greedos can't get shields. So there's a good chance that Yoda will survive the turn 1, but I didn't want to take that chance. So I'm going to go to resource this red 3 and this tech. And I'm just going to go ahead and play out a unit. And I'm going to play a Yoda here because of us potentially drawing a Force Throw. Didn't draw it, but could have drawn it. Now they could play some sort of upgrade on this Grogu. Looks like they're going to exhaust. Okay, that's fine. I am just going to play out a Kanan. And we're going to claim initiative. And we drew ourselves a Pillage, which looks amazing here. We're going to go ahead and kill off their Ezra. I'm going to start off the turn by killing their Ezra, just because I don't want them drawing a bunch of cards. I don't want them killing my Yoda here. We discarded a Luke. Awesome. Don't want to see them have a Luke. There's also a chance I just play a Poe Dameron, depending on what they play. The Force is with me, huh? All right, all right. Let's go ahead and play out a Poe Dameron then. Poe Dameron comes down, and we're going to go ahead and claim, or we're going to go ahead and pass after they claim initiative. Draw ourselves another Poe Dameron, but I think the Concord Dawn Interceptor is a little bit less valuable here. So they definitely have board control right now. The Force is with me definitely does that. They're going to exhaust it. Sure. Let's go ahead and flip over a Han. Exhausting the Poe Dameron isn't really that scary for us, to be honest. We're going to go ahead and attack into their Kanan or Grogu. We're going to attack into their Grogu. Give a shield token to Kanan. Let's go ahead and play a Obi-Wan. And we're going to pass. Get ourselves a Rival's Fall, another Kanan, and a Poe. I like all these cards. That's going to be a Cunning. Oh, okay. So Cunning can't bounce any units, which is pretty strong. Oh, yes, it can, because it has 4 power. Okay, so they're going to bounce and do all this nonsense. Okay. So I can just replay Obi-Wan. I guess I'll just replay Obi-Wan. We're going to claim initiative. They can attack it with everything. That's fine. We're going to give the 2 experience to Poe Dameron. But this is actually a pretty good spot for us to be in because they can't actually get through it without attacking it with 2 different units. And one of them's got to be Luke Skywalker. Otherwise, they lose their Grogu. And so, well, actually, they can give the shield token to Grogu. And then attack it, which is pretty nice. But then we can give the experience to Poe Dameron so that it doesn't actually die to Kanan, which is pretty nice. And that is a Krayt Dragon and another Luke. Wow, okay. Lots of stuff to do with our cards in hand, to be honest. I think I'm going to start discarding some of them. Let's see. We want to attack the Luke Skywalker. Discard Pillage to defeat the Kanan's upgrade. And then discard the Tree Tender to make them discard a card. Now, they could have a Luke to play after this, but we have a Luke as well. So we get to Luke their Grogu or whatever. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's pretty nice. Let's go ahead and play a Luke to kill off the Mandalorian. Oh, wait. We didn't actually lose any unit here. Well, that was a mistake. For some reason, I thought we lost a unit, but we did not. So that was just a mistake. Let's go ahead and resource this Cassian. And I think I'm going to just attack their... They should have attacked with Grogu. There was a couple different things that we misplayed. This was just a very bad turn. Very, very poor turn. I should have waited for them to attack, or I should have attacked with Han to get my kill on the Mandalorian, and they should have attacked with Grogu. But turns out that, well, that's not how this game's going to go. And we're going to be able to kill both those units, which is really nice. And then here, I can play out a Krayt Dragon. I love the Luke. They're going to shrink, huh? Okay, we're going to Rival's Fall the Grogu then. Just get rid of it. No real reason to prevent or to allow them to just kill my Luke for free. And we're going to attack to restore 3. Draw ourselves a Karabast and a Rival's Fall. Don't know how relevant Karabast is going to be. And I actually prefer just have this straight up power in my hand. Spark Rebellion. Sure. They can go ahead and take my Krayt Dragon. They didn't really think about that one for too long. They have a Liberated Slaves. We're just going to attack their base. No reason to really hit their unit here. They can give it a shield token. It's fine. Drew ourselves into Chewbacca and Red 3. I'm actually going to resource the Chewbacca because, well, we can smuggle it out. Let's go ahead and just attack for 6. We do have a Chewbacca, we have a Cassian, we have a Tech, we have a lot of things to smuggle out, and I'm actually going to smuggle out the Chewbacca, defeat the liberated slaves at this point. And now I don't really feel like we can lose. What did they play? What is this? Millennium Falcon, huh? Okay. Yeah, this is good. This is just kind of over for them, huh? We have a Force Throw. We could discard this Luke. We can make them discard. I think I'm just going to attack with Luke here to start us off. That's Leia. Seems pretty good. Let's go ahead and Force Throw our opponent. See what they discard. Make them have less options in hand. We could always kill Leia. Looks like they have a Cunning, so we can go ahead and kill their Arc 170. They have a Luke. Okay. They can shrink my Luke, which is not like that amazing. We could play another Chewie. We could play a Cassian. I think I want to go Cassian plus Poe. What do we smuggle in? A red 3. Let's go kill or hit their base for 3. Let's play a Poe, and then let's pass. Drew ourselves into a Yoda, Obi-Wan, and still have that Luke. I can keep resourcing because we have like Chewbacca, we have Tech, we have another Cassian. Like we have just so much pressure, and it looks like our opponent's off it. So pretty close game there until it wasn't. That misplay turn, I think if we had both played it to what we should have played it, they would have played the Mandalorian, healed up their Grogu. We would have attacked with Han Solo, and I believe killed their Kanan, or we would have just hit their Mandalorian. We would have then potentially played Luke to kill their Kanan, or we would have just passed and let them hit my Luke, or hit my Poe. That's what it was. Because if they don't, then that's awesome for us. And then we could have killed their Mandalorian with Luke. There's just all sorts of different ways we could have both played that, depending on if we both didn't make mistakes. But you know, that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. On to the next one. Looks like against Boba Yellow here, and we don't have a turn 2 play if we don't keep both Red 3 and Worshire Tree Tender, and these are not the kind of plays I want to curve into. So I think I'm going to mulligan this and hope for a little bit of a better one. And this is a lot better one because I can go ahead and resource this Krayt Dragon and the K2, and I can go turn 1 Cassian and then give myself options for turn 2 play. Reason why I want to go turn 1 Cassian is, generally speaking, in this Boba Yellow deck, Crafty Smuggler is going to be the turn 1 play that you want the most. And so having a 3/3 obviously gives us more options rather than just immediately just dying to the shield token, essentially, from Crafty Smuggler. Hotshot Blaster being smuggled out to hit for 4, huh? Okay, yeah, that is something that they could do. Let's go ahead and play out a K2. And I think what we do is just attack their base for 3. Drew ourselves Obi-Wan. We got the Rey in hand. We have a Poe Dameron. Them playing a Hotshot Blaster isn't that scary, to be honest. They also smuggled it out, by the way. So it costs them the full amount. No good to me dead, huh? All right, well, let's just go ahead and actually, let's just attack their base for 3. And let's just go ahead and play a Poe Dameron. And they played a Greedo. Awesome. So we get to claim initiative. And we drew ourselves a Karabast and a Rival's Fall. So I like Karabast. I like Rival's Fall. And the way that we can do this is we can defeat an upgrade and then deal 2 damage to the Greedo, or to the Crafty Smuggler. This is what we should be able to do. Let's go to resource. And then we attack the Greedo. We defeat an upgrade by discarding probably Rey. And then we discard the Karabast to kill the Crafty Smuggler. Yeah, awesome. And they discarded a card, and they did not hit a non-unit. So we keep our Poe, we keep our K2, we keep our Cassian. We could still deploy an Obi-Wan this turn, which is going to be amazing because they can't get rid of this Poe Dameron. So now what we do is we just play a Obi-Wan. And now if they have like a Boba Fett's armor, then we just go ahead and, well, defeat it with Rival's Fall. Give our Poe Dameron the 2 experience, and we're going to claim initiative. They could have a Cantina Bouncer here, which would be pretty good for them. Looks like they have a 4 Loms. They're going to ambush. That's totally fine. We're going to Rival's Fall I could have deployed Han there, but I kind of just wanted to get the Rival's Fall down. I didn't know if they were going to have another play. We're just going to Rival's Fall the Boba Fett. Cantina Bouncer, huh? All right, let's go on and attack their base for 3. Cantina Bouncer really isn't that scary. We're going to go on and attack their base for another 3, and then we're going to pass. Draw ourselves a Poe Dameron. We got a Worship Tree Tender. No smuggle options right now. It's going to resource the Tree Tender. Suppose we could play both these, but we could also play both of these. No, I think I just want to go for maximum power. Keep the K2 and keep the Poe Dameron in hand. Okay, so they're going to go ahead and just surprise strike my leader down. Mind you, like, none of this really matters from my opponent. Like, if your opponent is Boba Yellow and they are trying to surprise strike your Han leader down, you're in a very good spot. Like, a very good spot. Heck, they played a Fett's Fire Spray and didn't even attack with it. That's how much of a good spot we are in. They could have another surprise strike and kill the Poe Dameron, but, like, what are they going to do? They're just so behind at this point. Because if they do that, I get to play 2 units. Super good. If they have like a Waylay to bounce the Poe Dameron, then we can just Rival's Fall their Fett's Fire Spray. They played a Bazine. Okay, so they're going to go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and attack their base. Let's go ahead and discard the K2 to kill the Cantina Bouncer. And I think we discard a card to make them discard a card from their hand. Get rid of any potential option. Okay, 4 Lom. Yep, that's pretty good for them. And they attack, which means we can claim initiative and kill them. Pretty straightforward. And a very, very clear matchup against this Boba Yellow. Pretty awesome. Definitely going to close out the game here. And look at that. The Boba Yellow getting absolutely demolished by the Han Blue here. So we're going to go ahead and talk about this deck a little bit, since that was the last match I am playing today, but it performed excellently. We did pretty well. The only decks that we struggled a little bit was the more ramp heavy decks, which makes a lot of sense. But more when we talk about the deck in just a moment. So what do we learn about Han Blue? Well, this deck is extremely powerful. Who knew just playing way better units every single turn was a good strategy? This is just a case of you having superior card quality every single turn. Your opponent plays some random 4-drop, you play a Poe Dameron. Your opponent plays a random 3-drop, you play a Kanan or a K2. Your opponent plays a 5-drop and you play an Obi-Wan. They expect to flip their leader and deal damage, you play an Obi-Wan Sentinel. They play an Obi-Wan, you play a Luke. Every single point in the curve, it just feels like you're playing something more powerful, especially when you get to Chewbacca's, Luke's, and Krayt Dragon. The curve of going Obi-Wan into Luke, into Chewbacca, into Krayt Dragon is just absurd, and you can do that a turn earlier than your opponent can. Even if they're ramping, you do it on the same turn unless they've ramped even further. The only decks that we really struggled against, like really hardcore, where it felt like, wow, they can kind of win the game at any moment, was the Palpatine decks. Now, that's not to say that you have amazing, insane matchups against Sabine Green and Boba Yellow and Han Yellow and all this stuff. But what I am saying is, if you're able to kind of curve out and you're able to control either their hand with pillage, or you're able to kind of remove some of the tempo that, or the pressure that some of these tempo decks have, like Han Yellow or Boba Yellow, then you can really survive into the middle to late game where you just take over. And if you're against those super heavy ramp decks, you could still win. Krayt Dragon's a huge part of that. So is pillage, but they're a lot trickier, especially Palpatine, which steal basically any unit that you play. And things like Krayt Dragon and Chewbacca and Luke get a lot worse, and Obi-Wan get a lot worse in that matchup, because even though you're playing them, your opponent can just steal them. And oftentimes they can ramp multiple times across the game before you can get to them. So some things to keep in mind. One card that is definitely debatable in the deck, or at least people debate it, is Karabast. Of course, all the cards are debatable, but for the most part, this is kind of the standard curve that you're going to be going with. right? Whether or not you want to play 2-drops is completely your choice. And you could play like Sabine Wren instead of Red 3, and you could play Queels instead of Worshir Tree Tender in that type of situation. But I found that I prefer, like, you could play Red 3 or an A-Wing on turn 1. And I'd rather play the Red 3 on turn 1 over the A-Wing, right? For most purposes. But Karabast here is an option that you have because of all the damage that you're dealing. And in some games, you could see it completely changed the whole game for us. And in some games, it's going to be kind of meh. So it really is a swingy card, especially in these early game matchups where you're being greens or things like that. You could go like play a Concord Dawn Interceptors to get Sentinel in space, play a Karabast, that type of stuff on turn 3, which is really strong. So thanks for watching, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed. Let me know what you think about the deck in the description down below or in the comment section down below, and I'll see you all for a video soon.